and it's one day to the proposed nationwide protest. And the Inspector General of Police has held an emergency security meeting with heads of paramilitary agencies. The meeting had in attendance personnel of the DSS, FRSC, NSCDC, Customs, NIS, and the NCS to map out strategies on how to effectively protect the lives and property of citizens during the planned nationwide protest. Celestina Area reports. Theophilus, in addressing, this planned protest, it seems that the IGP has been on top of his game, I would call it, since there was news of this protest. And so major stakeholders in the security architecture, like the NIS, the customs, even the correctional service are important, stakeholders in this discussion. And it's also important to note that the federal government has declared the custodial centers red zones to warn protesters not to go close. And so if you go close, whatever you face is at your detriment because this warning has been given.
In 2020, in the wake of the NSAS protest, October 2020, Edo State, the correctional center there was opened, so prisoners escaped. And so that's not the first time it's happening during a major protest. And so this warning is quite important at this time. And I like the fact that the police is on top of its game, trying to, was trying to ensure that...
Try to just manage the situation so
and all of that, yes,
in anarchy.
Understandably so.
But let's hear that report from Celestina Area on the meeting with the IGP.
On the days of the protest, the Inspector General of Police says it is to ensure accountability on the part of the security agencies. The rights of Nigerians cannot be undermined, but the country cannot afford a repeat of the NSAS protest. Protesters are advised to be peaceful in their demonstrations to ensure protection from the police.
We'll be sharing intelligence, we'll be discussing the roles that each agency will be playing in the event of a protest.
The IGP says he's meeting with the senior advocate of Nigeria, Egbo Adegboruwa, over his letter written to the police as solicitors of the Take It Back movement group over their request for police protection during their protests will be held virtually. Shortly after, the meeting went to closed doors. First Public Relations Officer Olumuyiwa Adejobi parades a suspect who was arrested in Jos over his comment on social media via TikTok, allegedly inciting violence over the protest.
We were able to arrest this particular person, Sulaiman Yakubu in Jos, on the plateau, and of course, the 34-year-old resident of Jos North. During interrogation, Yakubu confessed to being the individual in the viral video, but has not been able to explain his motivation for such statements with severe criminal implications. Attention was drawn to a false publication on certain media platforms that the IGP has imposed curfew on Nigeria. This is laughable, this is quite unfortunate, and of course mischievous.
There have been several appeals made by the Nigerian government asking for time to resolve the issues they have raised. Celestina Area, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, joining us for this discussion via Zoom from Abuja is Public Affairs Analyst Oladendi Ario. We also have joining us via Zoom from Abuja, Executive Director, Emergency and Risk Alert, Benru Olajigbe. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being with you.
So protest in most cases is always as a result of unresolved grievances. But with the effort by the federal government to, meet with major parties in this planned protest to an extent, would I say, has really not shown the desired results. So let's begin with you, Bero. What's your view on what is playing out right now?
Yeah, of course, the first statement I will make is that we should actually learn and relearn what democracy means in this country. And the trial, the test of democracy is actually not in consent. It's in dissent. The courage of people to disagree with policies. Of course, that presupposes that evil protest was envisaged when we wanted to form government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And it can be taken for granted. There is an assumption that time will come when people will disagree. And it shouldn't bring, if we have internalized democracy, we shouldn't get to this level where everyone is running helter-skelter to demonize protest, as if it's something that is strange. As a matter of fact, this democracy was birthed by protests in Nigeria, protests against the military. So it's a package. Democracy is a package, but we have reduced it to level of election. That when election hold, of course, we have achieved democracy. No! Governance must be interrogated. Policy must be interrogated. And there must be opportunity to disagree with policy that people consider obnoxious, that people consider anti-people, that people consider that is incapable of solving the myriad of problems that we have in Nigeria. Having said that, I will say that most of the statements by military, they are just uncalled for.
Why?
What needed to be done ab initio, even before this now, was to have, of course, let me tell you that the first policy pronouncement of President Bola Tinubu, which relating to oil price hike, it didn't, policy must be debated. Policy must be accommodated. Policy must be adaptable and adaptable to the environment. Policy must be holistically reflected on, so that you are not looking at the policy in terms of the amount of money you are going to make, but the quantum of consequences, the consequential impact of a particular policy, no matter how good that policy is, must be engaged with. Then you begin to do what we call cost-benefit analysis.
Mr. Olajigbe.
Yes.
Now, you've just mentioned that policies must be adaptable to the environment.
Yes.
Even if the policies seem to be draining the economy, because the government had said, first of all, it removed fuel subsidy because the economy was dying. And so they needed to pump in money for infrastructural development and all whatnot. So,
that's why I'm saying...
Yeah, go on.
That is why I'm saying that policy must be interrogated. You know that I said that even if the policy is good, look at the premise on which this government built that policy. Number one, they canvass all through the nation that the policy is only benefiting the rich and not the poor. That was very wrong and in fact, extremely wrong, in the sense that in Nigeria, we know that we are coming from a threshold of a country where 133 million people are multidimensionally poor. Aside from that, why I'm saying that policy, that was a lie, is that every right and transportation has been key issue. And then every rice you buy, there is element of fuel in it. Every beans you buy, there is element of fuel in it in terms of the price, because you have to transport them. So it's not correct that it has been benefiting only the rich. And as a matter of fact, the analysis that was incompetently made regarding this policy was that, one, what they call subsidy. Let me give you analysis. Assuming that the price of fuel that we are buying is right today, which I don't agree. If the dollar overtake naira to, God forbid, to a level of 2,000 naira per liter, per liter today, then what happened to the gap? The gap, the failure of government to account accountably responsible for that gap is what they call policy. It's what they call subsidy. It's not that we are importing. That is the problem. That is the challenge. We are importing and using dollar to buy fuel. And of course, if you look at my publication and suggestion in Vanguard, February 6th, I told the president, in fact, I call it that what the president President Tinubu must urgently do. One of the things was, one, to measure the purchase of crude oil in Naira and to give 300,000 barrel, because the government claimed that they have increased the production to 1,700 then. To give 300,000 barrel, reserve it for local production, engage with Dangote, and that they will be able to respond to bring down the price of that thing to the extent that I calculated that at the pump price will be around 250 naira.
Okay.
Because by my calculation, that 300,000 barrel translated to 47 million liters when processed.
Okay.
Do you get it? That will be able to stabilize the economy. That will be able to reduce and reverse the pressure put on Naira through importation. That will be able to ameliorate the social consequences of this policy.
If you can hear me, the president, when he came in, mentioned that some of these policies will be like childbirth and will not be easy, but is for the benefit of Nigerians in the long run. And to an extent, if you've seen, they have been, providing some palliatives to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal. And so I understand where you're coming from. But very quickly, let's quickly get the perspective of Oladide to this matter. Good morning. Thank you for joining us once again. What's your stance on the protest? And perhaps, is there any suggestion as regards a last-minute alternative for the government at this time?
All right. Thank you. Good morning again. Where I want to begin is the submission of the spokesperson of the government, Chief Bilari, yesterday. He made it very clear and boldly that nobody in the present government has the authority or capacity to stop any protests. And that Mr. President, for all everybody may care to know, is not against protest. He himself, having been a part of previous protests. That is one. Number two, the letter written to the IDP by Barrister,
Adegboruwa.
What's his name? Adegboruwa, SAN, was very specific. The title is Notice of Public Meetings, Rallies, and Processions, and Police Coverage. He did not mention the word protest. And that, for me, is being deliberate. Because there's a very thin gap between peaceful protest and riots. Okay? And that was exactly what happened with NSAS. NSAS began peacefully, but along the line, hoodlums hijacked it, and we all knew what we ended up having. Till today, none of the infrastructures that were destroyed, damaged, or set ablaze have been replaced, especially in Lagos State. Now, in his letter, he mentioned that they will be in 8 spots in Nigeria, in Lagos, in Abuja, in Bauchi, in Yobe, Ibadan, Osogbo, Benin, and in Rivers somewhere. Now, it's specific with all that they're going to be doing. Now, that for me shows that they too, they are conscious of not allowing what's supposed to be a peaceful event to now become a war situation, that we have far-reaching adverse effects on the infrastructure and the people's lives and properties. Again, he agreed to have a meeting with the IGP, but he said that they would prefer the meeting is virtual. so that so many stakeholders can join. And he said also that they will be led by Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, and there will be other lawyers there, NBA will be there, and civil society organizations. When you look at all of these things, I want people to banish the thinking that the government is against protests. No, what government is trying to do is to make sure that it is organized in a way that we will not end up with loss of lives, loss of public assets, and of course, personal properties. Okay? And of course, from what they submitted, which of course he said it was representing Take It Back movement, there will be no protest in the southeast, no protest in the northwest, and of course in north central, except for the one in Abuja. So that the people are taking it so badly, for me, it's a part of what we call back pants of democratic emancipation. We are increasingly becoming politically conscious. And of course, we are redefining democracy away from the universally taking definition that is government for the people, but no. People are now saying it is their government. They want to get involved. The question you want to ask and answer is this: do we have crisis in the country? Yes. Do we have inflation? Yes. Are the people having life difficult? Yes. But the question, the answer to all of this is simply that decapitation should never be seen as the solution to headache. We don't need to cut our head and attempt to cure headache. And that's why everybody is saying, if you must demonstrate, if you must protest, if there must be a rally or gathering or meeting, let it be organized. Now, the master stroke came from Lagos State. They went to court to say that, okay, if you must gather, you are allowed to be in 2 specific locations, the Ganifa Freedom Park and the Peace Park, both of them in K2 and Udota. The court insisted that they will not allow rallies on roads that will disrupt people, other people who are not interested in the rally. Okay? We must also bear in mind that your right to protest stops at the point where others say they are not interested.
All right. So, Mr. Oriyo, in trying to get the protesters to stop, to sheath the swords, the government had always consistently said that the hunger strike, the hunger crisis everywhere, is a global phenomenon. Now, I've always thought about the fact that how do you, because they will say it's a global phenomenon, and they say, give us time to sort it out. But how do you move from something that's a global phenomenon to trying to sort it out locally? Now, what can the government do at this point? Because several palliatives have been put forward by the federal government to ease the hunger crisis. But many say it's not long-standing, it's not a long-term solution. What can be done? Because if this is not addressed, we will have series of protests over time.
Thank you very much. I must admit that the spin-off of all of this challenge was the way and manner that subsidy was removed. I would have preferred that we had a kind of colloquium on it, whereby people would have been given this chance to express themselves, and the governor would have told them, okay, these are the things to be putting in place before we will remove subsidy. All those should have been put in place. But be that as it may, it was brought forth without those preparations. Hence, we are where we are. The first thing government has to do is to look at how food can be brought into the country, if possible, without any duty. I think I read a report last night. I don't know how far it is true. The government has granted importation of food free of duty.
Yes, duty free. Quite true.
Okay. If that is true, that means in another 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever people are going to be importing will be getting into the country. That means we may begin to look forward to cheaper food items, because the greatest inflation is on food. It's at about 40% now.
If we're looking at that to get cheaper food items, what about the other things that contribute? The vehicle that will move the food, excuse me, from the ports to the market will have to consume fuel or diesel.
Yeah,
there are other adjoining issues as well.
Yeah, don't forget that government has volunteered to convert, I think, 1 million vehicles that either don't use fuel to use compressed natural gas. And I think that process is already ongoing. By the time these ones are put out, you and I will agree that the cost of moving goods and people across the country will be reduced. I can tell you, I have a car that has been converted now. Before, what fuel that will cost 28,000 naira, that quantity, with the gas now, it's just 4,100. That's about 1/7 of the previous cost. So that being so, I didn't mean I'm into commercial transportation, for instance. I can charge less and still make profit. Okay? That comes in as a second option. And of course, it's a good thing that government has told NNPC Limited now to make crude oil available to Dangote refinery. This will be a master stroke because with Dangote getting crude oil in naira and not in dollar, that means it will bring down his cost. And naturally, we may likely end up paying less.
Oladende, some would argue that majority of these policies that you have mentioned are really not reaching or getting to the average Nigerian, especially palliatives that even were intended to be distributed to members of the public. And also for, the other parts that you mentioned, we'll also address that issue. But let's quickly get Bero's perspective. Bero, how do you react to the Senate President's statement about election losers using this protest as a means of getting back at the government, sponsoring this protest?
That is fallacious. This is part of the problem of the country. You are just looking for, rather than solving problem, you are looking for people to blame.
Let's not forget that intelligence. Let's not forget that intelligence was also given on this matter, saying some persons have decided to take advantage of this situation to cause anarchy.
Well, let me tell you. I think let us look at I will come to the level of that intelligence.
Okay.
Firstly, another one is that it's fallacious that inflation is a global problem because it has no basis in comparative economics. For instance, where is that inflation happening? Is it happening within the members of OPEC countries? Look, I think we should not be using blackmail as instrument of economic development. Inflation happen in other places because there's spike in the cost of energy because they were not producing. If you want to juxtapose Nigeria before other oil-producing states, then you can diligently come to conclusion. And if it happens in other oil companies where they are not finished product, then you can competently conclude that is global because the parameters that distinguish oil producing from others is no longer there. So I think we should be clear there, and we should not just be pedestrian in our analysis. Coming back to the Senate President, no man, no person in this country deserves to be called hoodlum. Protests happen everywhere. They don't call their citizens hoodlum. And if intelligence has been gathered and intelligence is specific enough, well, they should arrest those people. That is the purpose of intelligence, not to be using it as instrument of mobilizing against one policy or for one policy. That is the meaning of intelligence. It shouldn't be a blanket blackmail instrument to deter people from carrying out a democratic action. But what we can say, and what I understand with government, and I'm appalled to that too, is that no matter how good protests come up, it should not be onto a cadre of violence. So that we still need to live in our communities, in our country, even after we protest. So we should concede to Nigeria the ability to judge on what is of value to the country or not. And we are saying this because Nigerians have been placed so under great undertaking that they don't see themselves as Nigerian again. So it becomes action of we versus them. Look, it's easy for President Tinubu or anybody or Akpabio or whoever is in power to ask people to be patient. Of course, if you don't eat for 24 hours, even if you have the money, you will know how your body will be shaking. So there is a limit to patience that people can endure. There are solutions available for President Tinubu to take. I've just given you this one. What he has just done now is just like lifting what I said in February 6. February 6, about 6 months ago, published in the Vanguard. So there's no problem. It should accommodate. What I will just advise him is that accommodate views, extensive view. It should not be restrictive in the type of views that he takes in as a president. And I will give an instance. During the energy crisis under Jimmy Carter, he didn't listen to his secretaries, various secretaries. He went outside, he said people should be taught from outside. And he took them to Camp David. And they deliberated. He got the actual things that people wanted, how to resolve the energy crisis in America then. And solution came. So depending on advisors and ministers and party people that are often less psychophantic, will not help him, will not help our country. Nobody wants his country to blow off. Nobody wants to go to another country because
so what now is the solution?
The solution, one has been provided now, which I will continue to repeat, that have been suggested since February. Dedicating percentage of oil and denominating the purchase in Naira to Dangote, that will instantly bring relief. If production happens, the price will come down. Inevitably, the cost of production will be reduced. And of course, consequently, the cost of basic needs, including food, will go down.
But wouldn't that, if we're giving this to Dangote, wouldn't that lead to energy crisis? Because energy monopoly in that.
No, it's given to him in Naira. My own is that, one, I don't know if it's given to him in Naira. The advantage is that you are not importing. You are not increasing the cost of, you are not putting pressure on Naira. Because if you are importing, it's done in dollar. So you are not putting pressure in Naira. That will even stabilize the monetary system.
Bero, well, that's a fine place to leave the conversation for now. We have been following on this planned protest, and you've seen major reactions on, what the government should have done, what the government should do. And I would really have loved Oladede to react to the last-minute alternative that could be utilized at this time. We hope to bring you back soon. We must thank you, Oladede, our public affairs analyst, speaking to us live from Abuja, and also Gbero Oladegbe, that's the executive director, emergency